I used to think I found a way to avoid regret. Everyone kept saying the same thing. You will look back at your teenage years and cringe. So I made a decision. I just wouldn't do anything. No parties, no asking girls out, no raising my hand unless I had to. I told myself I was being smart. Why risk becoming the story everyone laughs at when you could just avoid it? For years, I actually believed it worked. Nothing could come back to haunt me. 3 years went by just like that. But turns out doing nothing affects you too. So why did I think that? And what happens if you never do anything at all? I always think back to classroom discussions. The teacher would throw out a question and I'd immediately have something I wanted to say. Sometimes I even thought everyone else had completely missed the point. But I never raised my hand. For a few seconds, every single person in the room would be looking at me. Almost no one else wanted to go first either. When the teacher would ask a question, the room would go completely silent. Everyone trying to avoid eye contact. 30 people waiting for someone else to break the silence. That wasn't about school. The exact same thing happens everywhere. At parties, someone has to be the first one to dance. At the beach, someone has to be the first one to take their shirt off. In the group chat, someone has to be the first one to respond to a message. As soon as one person does it, everyone relaxes. Suddenly, it doesn't feel weird anymore. The discussion starts and 7 different people jump into the conversation. I've noticed this with my own generation over and over again. Gen Z seems to be constantly waiting for permission. I wanted to make YouTube videos for years before I actually uploaded one. I had ideas sitting in my notes. I'd spend hours watching other creators, but every time I thought about making my own video, my mind skipped straight to someone from school finding it. So I waited. When I finally uploaded, I didn't tell anyone. I hoped I could make enough videos first that if someone eventually found my channel, I'd be successful enough that it wasn't embarrassing anymore. That feeling exists almost everywhere now. Most people we see online have already spent years practicing before we ever see them. You don't think of playing piano as learning piano. You think of it as playing it like someone who already went viral doing it. But the beginner hasn't disappeared. Ask a beginner question in almost any fandom and watch what happens. Get told to lurk some more. Get made fun of for having a life outside the thing you just asked about. After seeing that enough times, staying quiet starts feeling safer than admitting you're new at anything. Growing up, embarrassment had an expiration date. You would say something stupid, trip over your own feet, miss an easy shot. People would laugh. A week later, everyone had moved on. That isn't how it feels anymore. Now, there's always a chance someone's recording. A clip gets posted. It ends up online. Hundreds of thousands of strangers see a moment that was never meant to leave their room. The odds of that actually happening are small, but your brain doesn't care. The possibility alone is enough to keep you quiet. Scroll for a few minutes and you'll eventually find someone being laughed at. An awkward interview, a bad performance, someone dancing with too much confidence. The comments all say the same word: cringe. Watching it happen to someone else teaches you that lesson fast. Joke about yourself before anyone else can. Say you don't care before anyone finds out you do. After growing up around that long enough, you start carrying an invisible audience with you. Even when nobody's actually watching, it can still feel like they are. For a long time, doing nothing felt like winning. Every time I stayed quiet, nothing happened. Every time I decided not to try something, nothing happened. Every time I talked myself out of doing something embarrassing, nothing happened. That's exactly why it was so easy to keep making the same decision. Nothing felt different the next day. Until one day I realized I barely had any stories to tell. Think about the funniest thing you have done with your friends. It's never something basic. No one tells stories about the day everyone acted perfectly. I spent years overthinking conversations before they even happened. If I had to talk to someone I didn't know, I'd mentally rehearse what I was going to say over and over again. Even after a conversation ended, I'd replay it in my head, wondering if I sounded weird. The strange part is that I can't remember a single embarrassing answer anyone else gave. Not one. I only remember my own. We carry our awkward moments around for years while everyone else has already forgotten them. That cringe thing you said in one of those get-to-know-you games at the start of the school year. Nobody else remembers them. Ask them. They only remember their own answers, if even that. But I did know people who had it worse than me. Guys who wouldn't say a word all day. Even if you had known them for years, you'd ask them something and they'd barely get a sentence out. I was never that far gone, but had things not changed, I could have been. But things did change. I started raising my hand more often, started conversations without planning every sentence first, stopped hiding every interest until I felt good enough at it. Some of those moments were awkward, some were genuinely embarrassing. None of them mattered as much as I had imagined. The years I spent sitting on the sidelines mattered a lot more. Soon there's another video where I get into what actually helped me start changing and how that ended up going wrong in its own way too. Subscribe